Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist to the Abyss, and you're watching my incredibly late review for Taboo Tattoo Episode 9. I was questioning whether or not I should even do a review at this point, because if you watch my World Trigger review, then you know that I'm studying for the GMATs next week, so my reviews this week are late, and next week will probably be late as well. Um, and then I ended up having computer problems around like Thursday, Friday, so I couldn't do it then either. So this is just when the review ended up coming out because of that. Um, Luckily, this is not a review. This is not an episode that needs much reviewing. Hopefully, this will end up being my shortest review of Taboo Tattoo yet, which doesn't necessarily mean much, but I'm hoping it will. Um, One thing I meant to, and I know no one's going to believe me when I say this, but maybe you will, because you know I make theories all the time, and this is pretty obvious from the opening. But in the opening, there's a scene towards the end, a very obvious scene where people who look exactly like Aryabhata are literally just appearing across the screen. And I meant to say last week that that I meant to question whether or not they were clones of Aryabhata. All right, and I ended up forgetting to do it because I got so caught up um, in talking about the quality of the series as a whole and like just stuff like that. So I ended up forgetting to talk about it. But maybe you will believe me if I tell you that the entire reason I was going to bring it up in the first place is because I thought Ganesha was also a clone. Watching this episode, I still have no idea if she's a clone or not. I'm guessing she is. They kind of, I think Kujuli, whatever her name is. I think she said that they were sisters, like an index, you know, with Misaka. Misaka. There we go. I I can't believe I actually got her name wrong. Misaki. Who is Misaki? Do I even know a Misaki? I probably know a few of them in anime. But anyway, the point is that the entire thing started with Brad dying right last week, and that made me think. Well, in the opening, we see him fighting this girl with her eyes sewn shut. So how can that happen if he's dead, right? But then I start thinking about it. Well, she looks like a. I start thinking about it like at this point in the series, she hasn't shown up yet. Who is this girl? She looks like Aryabhata. Is she a clone? Then I remember the people from like at the end of the opening. I'm like, well, are they clones too? So last week made me think that Aryabhata had clones. So that's I was gonna bring it up, and then I just forgot because I got caught up in stuff, right? But this ended up being confirmed in this week's episode. As you know, it was all about Brad's memories and stuff. He joins the Brahman. He kind of befriends Varma. He gets a triggerless tattoo. The pacing of this episode was, for the first half of it, there were pretty much no transitions at all. It just went boom, 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 boom. Scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, and there was just no transition. All right. So they just didn't care. They were trying to get as much in this episode as I could. All right, but we got some information. Yeah, so just so you know, there are no transitions. It goes from him joining the Brahman to all of a sudden we're getting information from Aryabhata that the ruins that the U.S. are in charge that they have, the inscription, whatever that means, was lost. I guess whatever inscription means. The inscription was lost for the ruins, and that's why the U.S. isn't progressing on their research. Okay, then we find out that Brad is in Silinistan with the Brahman in order to find a way to destroy Tattoo, since that's what his goal is, you know, to help out Izzy, right? And then because he likes to wander, and he wanders in the Cal's room, Cal tells him not to wander near Samsara, and his response is to go to Samsara, where he finds out that Varma is both the king's spy and the king's lover, okay? And then they end up getting attacked by the blind and deaf Ganesha, okay? They did manage to get away. Brad was hurt in the process big time, but he healed, so he ended up being fine. Varma ends up bringing Brad into the king's plan. The two of them meet up. Brad figures out that Aryabhata isn't his biological daughter and that she has really no attachment to him at all. Right, so that makes it even more obvious that she's going to take his throne one day because she already has a ton of control and power in that country. So it's only a matter of time before she just goes for the last remaining thing, right? And the king doesn't even really care because he feels guilty about all the crap that he's done. All right, but Brad figures, well, if we show him enough evidence, he'll be forced to act, and he'll actually be willing to do something. All right. Next, we see Aryabhata ordering Brad and Cal to defend the ruins from American soldiers. Brad beats them, but he won't kill them, and unlike Sagi, he's actually capable of standing up for his sense of justice and defending it. Okay, but Cal just says screw it and kills them anyway. Eventually, and there were some scenes in between here, but who cares? They were just there. Not a big deal. No need to mention them. It's just, like, this episode is mostly, what I'm saying right now is mostly just a recap. Like, I'm not even reviewing anything yet because there's no need to. But eventually, Brad and Varma end up challenging Ganesha again so that they can invade Samsara and make their move before Arya gets a chance to make hers. And during this fight, we see Ganesha opening her eyes, but then re-sewing them shut, but then opening them again. I don't really know what. So can she actually see when she wants to? Is she only blind because her eyes are sewn shut, or is she legit blind and sewing her eyes shut is just some way to help her not get distracted in a fight or something like that? Like, I don't know. I'm assuming she can see when her eyes are unsewn, or else what's the point in unsewing them? So that's just an assumption I'm making. But I'm guessing she's still deaf. And I'm guessing she's also mute because all the sounds she made in this episode were just noise. There were no words spoken. It was just noises. So I'm assuming she's mute as well to an extent. She doesn't know Japanese at the very least. That's what I'm assuming. All right. But two of them end up fighting Ganesha. Brad does most of the work, obviously. That's pretty. Did you really expect anything from this dude who we've never even met before in Varma? Like, who is this guy? And he's clearly not in the Brahman anymore because he hasn't been relevant at all. So the chances were he was dying at some point, and sure enough, he did. But we'll get to that later. Brad beats Ganesha with a tiny bit of help from Varma, and he ends up feeling the first symptoms of overusing his power. You can see that. All right. But this is when we meet Kujuli and other clones, including the ones who aren't currently living. Whether that means they have yet to be complete, or they were completed but they just died as a result of just not being complete. We're not really sure. Kujuli referred to them as failures, or at least that's how some people saw them. So I'm guessing that maybe they're stalled in their development, or they're just done. But I feel like if they were legit done and dead, then they would have been disposed of, seeing as though they weren't really treated like humans. So maybe Arya stepped in and decided to keep them for some strange reason instead of burying them, or something. I don't really know. But the point is they're there. Okay. And Kujuli says that the king tried to use the ruins to rewrite the world, but he couldn't because he couldn't access the tattoo dimension to use the interface. So he created the sisters in order to do that. I'm just going to assume this has something to do with Aryabhata going into the ruins and like going into that space with like the crystals and crap and doing whatever it is she was doing in there, But if that's the case, and only the clones can do that, then how did the U.S. get control over one of the ruins? So if the U.S. were able to get control over one of the ruins, then that must mean that either Aryabhata did it and they just beat her out and took it literally just by force, or the clones aren't the only ones capable of accessing the tattoo dimension. First of all, how did they create clones that are capable of accessing the tattoo? Like, what is it about Aryabhata that allows her to access the tattoo dimension? How is it, like, what? See, so this is just not clear. The king created them in order to access the tattoo dimension, but how is it that, like, what is it about them that allows them to access the tattoo dimension? And what is it about Aryabhata that makes her the most complete of the sisters? Okay, so these questions were not answered because this is by far the most mediocre episode of the entire series. By far, this is the one that makes the least amount of sense. This is the one that answers the least amount of questions. at least the other, because usually when you watch an episode of Taboo Tattoo, you're left with questions rather than answers, but at least you get some answers, you know? This was not the case here. Okay, we had, more so than any of the other episodes, things just did not make sense here, and it was just confusing. Okay, and we haven't even gotten to the most confusing part yet, because, well, first of all, Kujuli refers to Aryabhata as an input device in the shape of a human. So what exactly is being inputted into her, I'm not really sure. She clearly has her own sentience. She has her own will. She does what she wants. So what is it that's being what commands, or what is being inputted into her? What makes her an input device? The tattoo dimension? Like, does she take in the tattoo? What? Like, this doesn't even make sense. Does she absorb the tattoo dimension, or like did she input something that allows her to access the tattoo dimension and activate these ruins? Like, none of this is being explained. Okay, none of this was explained. Okay, what also wasn't explained is how the souls of the sisters are partially fused with Aryabhata at the center. Okay, this doesn't in Index. This makes sense because they actually explain it. They explain the Misaka network. Okay, Misaka Mikoto, great character, by the way. Index, great show. You should watch it, and then watch Railgun. The first season is mediocre, but the second season is really freaking good. Go watch it. The Raildex universe is great. Now, if only they'd make a season 3 of Index. Anyway, it makes sense in Index. It doesn't make sense here because they don't explain it. Alright, the souls of the sisters are partially fused with Aryabhata at the center, but how is it that their souls are like, did they find some, how do you find a way to manipulate souls in a world where you don't even know how to use the tattoos without accessing the tattoo dimension that you can't do without the clones? Like, this is like circular logic here, alright? You can't do something without this. And you can't do X without Y, but you can't do Y without X. So how do you get either of them? Like, you know, like, none of this makes any sense at all whatsoever. Okay, and then we get to the part where we talk about Aryabhata's plan. Some of the clones are in favor of what Aryabhata wants to do, and some of them aren't. Okay, Shell and Fizul are in fact in favor of what Aryabhata wants. So the two of them go against Kujuli and give up Bread and Varma to Cal, who calls to see what's going on. Okay, so Brad and Varma, they take what data they can and they leave. But before that, Kujuli tells them that her hope, because of the fact that their souls are all connected, her hope is a part of Aryabhata too, so they shouldn't give up on her. But it's too late, because if we learned anything from last week's episode, it was that Aryabhata has gone past the point of no return. Okay, I talked earlier about how she didn't look in time. Like, by earlier, I mean weeks ago in my previous reviews, like maybe episode 3 or 4, something like that. I talked about how she came off like someone who is inherently evil and just legitimately believes that what she's doing is right. So, maybe she wouldn't be a villain per se, but maybe like an anti-hero of some sort. But that's clearly not the case, because what she did to Toko, what she ordered Mish to do to Toko, it's clear that she is a villain. Right? It's too late. It's too late. All hope is lost. Okay, you can't convince her anymore. You cannot hit her with that talk no jutsu. All you can do is defeat her at this point. Okay, so it's too late for that. Kujuli's hope has died. Okay, it's gone. Alright, well, it hasn't technically died, but it's so small that it's insignificant and doesn't have an impact at all in her personality or the way that she goes about doing things or the way that she perceives other people's opinions on her plans or anything like that. Okay, now, not only does Kujuli tell them to not give up hope on Aryabhata, she also tries to explain why it is that she doesn't support Aryabhata's plans. And she says it's because her and the sisters weren't treated like humans until Arya gained control, and only because of their sisterhood were they able to actually get through the tough times of the human experimentation, and that's why she's against her. Not for her, against her. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. Okay, it confused me too. I had to go back and like reread it, and I'm like, wait, but what are you even saying? This doesn't make any sense at all. Now, to be fair, She also said that to deny humans would be denying themselves. That's not exactly airtight logic. No matter how you look at it, you're not natural humans, you're artificial humans. So there are differences between yourselves and regular humans. It doesn't he, no, like you want, if you want to consider yourself human, go ahead, but you're at the very least a different type of human than the types of humans that Aryabhata is going after, right? So you say denying them is denying yourself. It's really not, because there's enough different about you where you can justify believing that you're different, right? So saying that the only reason that you're against Aryabhata is because you view yourselves as the same as them, you're clearly not. But I guess it's possible to say that that you're similar enough where denying them would be denying yourself. Again, it's not exactly airtight logic, but okay, fine, all right. Now, we're also told here, but I don't know which one it was. If it was freaking Fizul or Shah, I don't really know which one it was. I don't really care. But they end up saying that the king wiped out an entire clan in order to create the sisters through human experimentation. Okay, like 3,000 people. I think they said it was. Okay, now getting revenge on him makes sense. Getting revenge on the people who were involved in the human experimentation makes sense. Even if there's been a lot of research into this, it's a proven fact that when you have someone who is an authoritative figure and they order you to do something, you are more likely to do it regardless of what your morals or your ethics say about the situation. This is just psychologically proven fact. Okay, not everybody will do it, but the greater majority of people will, because that's just the type of power authoritative figures have over a person. So you can argue that the people who carried out the experiments weren't 100% in the wrong and don't deserve to die for what they did. Only the king does. But if you tell people that the Nazis don't deserve to die and only Hitler does, there aren't many people who are going to agree with that. So you know, it's understandable to want to get revenge on all of them and not just the king. That's what I'm saying. So their plan to an extent makes sense, but then you realize, oh wait, it's not just the king and the people involved in the experiments they want to take out and rewrite, but it's all humans in general. Okay, which doesn't make sense, because what did they do to you? Nothing. They literally did nothing to you. So I mean, it's no one's logic here makes sense. This is the least logical episode of the entire series by far. Okay, nothing makes sense here. Okay, Kujali doesn't make sense. Fizul doesn't make sense. Shell doesn't make sense. Aryabhata doesn't make sense. The king doesn't make sense. None of these people make sense. Okay, no one does. All right, it's just like what? Like even the just the basic facts that introduce it at this point don't make any sense. The tattoo dimension, and and the clones being created in order to access it, but how did the U.S. access it without clones? And then what is it about the clones that allowed them to access the tattoo dimension, and what was it about you and your experience that gave them the qualities necessary for them to access the tattoo dimension? Like this stuff doesn't make it. It just these answers just create more questions, including the ones you originally had, because the answer doesn't actually answer anything at all, because it doesn't make sense, right? So this episode is just not good. Okay, the rest of it is just, Varma gets killed by Cal. Brad makes it back to the king and explains all that's happened. The king is going to let himself die anyway because he shows Brad a way to escape the country, but it obviously wasn't a good one, because he ends up getting attacked by freaking everybody in the Brahman and all the maids and literally everybody. Okay, he didn't fight Cal one more time, and he actually managed to hold her back. All right, but then he ended up getting caught by Captain Ajita, but he obviously doesn't die there. He obviously gets away at some point, so I'm not really sure what his ability is and what it accomplishes. I'm not really did what, like, I don't even, whatever. Like, honestly, this episode, I'm just done. with the episode specifically, not the series, because most people have dropped the series at this point. And like I said, there are things I've said it before. There are parts about this series. There are things about it that I actually like. So that plus I'm invested in. Like I dropped a series last week. I dropped a series last week that I was like 6.5 episodes in on. So but I wasn't as invested in that one as I am this one. So yeah, I I have enough that I like about this series that even though there are things that I don't like about it, I'm still gonna finish it. I'm still curious to see what happens with Izzy and Seigi, and what happens after they uh, go after Aryabhata and the Brahman again. I'm interested in seeing how they react after their tragedies. I'm interested in seeing uh, how Arya's plans progress from here, because even though they don't make sense, it doesn't change the fact that Aryabhata is still really freaking cool and really freaking awesome, and Kava's really freaking awesome, and the fights are really freaking awesome. So like, there's still enough about the series to make me watch. All right, but as for this episode, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10 because it was just bad. It was just bad. Okay, nothing made sense. The few fights we had were good, but they were like a minute total. From like beginning to end of the episode, the total fights were maybe a minute and a half, maybe. All right, 2 fights with Cal, 2 fights with Ganesha. Um, I think that's it. I think that's it. So, um, yeah, I mean, not much good to that. There wasn't much good to come out of this episode. I don't really know why Seigi needed to watch this. What does Seigi get out of this anyway? Just Aryabhata's plans, I guess. I mean, that's it. That's the only thing he gets out of this, and he didn't need to sit here and watch an entire episode of flashbacks just to do that. Wiseman could have just told him this is what her plan is in detail, and that would have been that. Like, what? Why is this entire thing necessary? Say you didn't need to watch this. They could have just okay, you know what? Whatever. I can understand showing us what happened because it could be interesting to us to see what caused Brad to join the Brahmin in the first place. How it is he left, and all these little details here and there. I can see how that can benefit us, but it doesn't benefit Seigi at all. It really doesn't. Okay, who cares about Varma? What does Seigi care about him? It doesn't make any. What? I don't see why Seigi had to get in this pod and watch all this. All Wise going to do is say this is Aryabhata's plan. Okay. And then you could have shown us this episode in a completely this episode didn't need to set up it got. You could have just given us this episode before the last episode. And, although I would have been annoyed at the fact that you went the episode on a cliffhanger with Brad about to fight Cal, and the very next fight we get has nothing to do with Brad versus Cal, though they did fight twice for like 30 seconds. But, I would have been annoyed that they did that. Or they could have just started the flashback at the end of the episode. Then I would have known. Okay, I would have known what to expect. So actually, no, I take that back. The way they did this was really weird. So, but whatever. I'm just going on now. The episode gets a 4 out of 10 because it was just bad. Okay, and that is that, you guys. Rate, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at BlacklistOTA, and I will see you guys next time.